finish actually the final 2 kilometres go uphill, so it'll kind of sort things out a little bit. But definitely the last 30 kilometres is very dangerous, and for a group like this, people say, oh, we don't ride Paris-Roubaix, don't ride the roads of the Paris-Roubaix in the Tour de France because they're very small and very dangerous and cannot take a full 200 plus riders. And here we are now over in Brittany. It's not as if there are only these roads to go on. There are main roads that people can go on, but they brought them right around the whole, all on the cliffs on these small roads for a touristic trip around Brittany. But I can assure there's a lot of these riders tonight not going to be very happy because it's 228 kilometres today, and it's like riding at some stages the last 70 kilometres, so it's like driving in Milan-San Remo. You'll be all the time on the brakes, all the time trying to get to the front. There's crosswinds coming in off the sea, so the last 70 kilometres people are going to be very, very tired.
Well, let's put you in the picture what's happened so far. See Castorama on the front. The reason Castorama will be sitting on the front at every opportunity is because the man in the yellow jersey is from the Castorama team, Jackie Durand, who yesterday took the prologue time trial. He was very fortunate in that when he started in the time trial yesterday, he was one of the few riders that managed to get round before the rain came down. He started off at 27th man to go yesterday, and that was in his favour. In fact, none of the riders that finished in the top 10 places were all of those who went round before the rains came. There's your sign, 81 kilometres to go, just over 50 miles left in the race today, and with the yellow jersey on the shoulder of Jackie Durand, that is why the Castorama team are now at the front trying to stop any breakaways from forming. The bunch have been very lethargic, and I don't blame them, as the roads have been pretty tricky in places. They've been travelling at less than 40 kilometres per hour. They're running about 15 to 18 minutes down on schedule at the moment, and Jackie Durand having a chat with his teammate. He looks very happy indeed. In fact, this sort of course would probably even suit Jackie Durand, because he's very sort of, I would say, rough and tough all round. A man who can win the Tour of Flanders, you've got to be able to handle your bike in these conditions.
You have, and like Jackie is the kind of a guy who's a very good classic rider, and there's no trouble to him to be pushing and shoving around. And as we go on these small roads, the best place to be is on the front, because you never know, like could come around a corner and have a crosswind, the group might split. So the best place for Jackie to be at this moment is in the front, but his team are actually, I think, in my opinion, riding a little bit too hard for this moment, because there are still 80 odd kilometres to go, and they're still riding this train on the front, whereas in the final it gets very, very difficult, and he might be needing the same teammates to still have some energy left and some reserves left to ride down and chase after a break. So I just hope it doesn't make them ride too hard now for the next few kilometres.
Well, there are time bonuses at the end of the stage, and that is, I think, why he wants to keep it very tight. I'll give you a rundown on some of the leading positions in a moment. Just give you a rundown of what has actually happened so far today. The stage then from Dinan-Lannion, coming 233 kilometres, set off this morning from Dinan under very overcast skies, and just a little drizzle started to come soon after the start. There were 3 fourth category climbs today. The first one at Côte Saint-Aide was taken by Simon, ahead of Ironk, and in third split was Conishaver. In the next climb at Langouet, de Klerk was first over that one, Simon was second, and Veronk was third. The climb which we had just before we came on air, Simon won that one ahead of de Klerk, with Kierpucci showing at the front in third spot. Going back to that climb at Langouet, that was a little village where in fact the Gone team was staying, and sympathies go out to Chris Boardman, to his wife Sally, and to his family, that Chris was eliminated from the race yesterday. You probably heard all about it in your papers this morning, if the people managed to phone the story through, because of course finishing the prologue time trial so late last night made it difficult to file the stories for some of the Sunday papers. But I'm sure you caught up with the fact then that Boardman had that crash and did his ankle no good at all.
But this morning I spoke to Chris's son Ure on the team, and he said to me, I asked him, well, how was Chris' morale last night? He said it's very surprising, because Chris actually said, if you remember this time last year, there's 2 guys were knocked out of the race because of an accident, and they came back to be even stronger. So I can come back to be even stronger than this year again. So somebody that's going out of the Tour de France, I'm sure he's very disappointed, and has that kind of a morale. It's the best way to have it. So I myself wish Chris all the best, and keep that morale up, because that's the only way of getting there. We always say that no pain, no fame. That's very, very true. You have to kind of, every little obstacle is another hurdle to go over. As you all know, that a horse race without a hurdle is not very interesting. So these hurdles are all like in a horse race. The more you have, the more interesting it makes life become, and each one you get over makes you get better again. So this is only one other obstacle in Chris's career. It'll probably not be the last one, but you have to get over it.
It's a great disappointment, I think, as far as he's concerned, that he didn't have a chance to tackle the mountains in this race. He's shown already this season he can climb the mountains, but it's different doing it in a 4 or 5 day race, isn't it, than actually taking it when you've been maybe 10 days in the saddle. So, I mean, I'm sure deep down he must be sorry for that, though of course he can come back, and there is the World Time Trial Championship. He's got to defend that jersey later on in the season, and I'm sure he put his whole mind toward that, and maybe even go for the hour record. There's been some talk about that too.
Well, this year in the Midi Libre, I spoke to Roger Leger, Chris's Collective Sportif, on his performance in the mountains in the Midi Libre race, which I thought he very impressed me until one day he lost a bit of time, but it was quite normal. Then we saw him, he came out then and rode even better again in Dauphiné, so it was just clearly showing to everybody that he was getting better in the mountains. Still not possibly being good enough to win the Tour de France, but definitely with having that bit of experience behind him in the mountains, having ambitions about coming in the first 10, in the first 5 maybe, and getting better and programming himself for future. But it's unfortunate that he didn't get to the mountains of the Tour de France, because after riding 1 week in the flat, the time trials, the rest days, the going to stage starts, going to stage finishes, getting lack of sleep, and the on-road routine of everyday Tour de France riders, and then hitting the mountains, the speed these riders go over the mountains at, would have been very interesting to see how he coped with it. I thought he would have coped, myself personally, I thought he would have coped well in the Alps, and then maybe had a little bit of a die-off in the Pyrenees, because I thought, well, that was his normal kind of ramp of progression. But unfortunately, now we'll have to wait till next year to see that.
Well, and also our sympathies to Robert Miller, who had been telling Chris how to climb the mountain too, and worked and talked about it quite a bit. And Chris went down to Grenoble and went and tackled the Alps just to learn how to climb there and to get to know something about the climbs, because Robert said you want to know which way the wind's coming and so on. He learnt a lot of Robert. Of course, Robert couldn't ride because Le Groupement, if you haven't caught up with the British cyclists back in home, they've unscrambled the team at the moment. You see that the 159 kilometres now covered. That's the first stage at a place called Paimpol, and so Robert then with all the rest of the Groupement riders is without his salary check, and the Groupement have now unscrambled their team. There's going to be a lot of writs flying around, but of course that's no good if your company hasn't got any money to pay you. And the problem with Le Groupement is that they are a direct selling organisation, and early on this year there was an expose on television which really slated their methods of operating, and they lost about a third of their sales straight away. And if you lose a lump of sales like that, then suddenly your profits drop, and expenses in advertising have to be cut back, and that's been the problem as far as the team has been concerned. So the riders here, see the Castorama team here, they got Thierry Laurent wearing the green jersey because Jackie Durand has got the yellow one, so they've got a nice collection of jerseys already in this race.
They have, and it just arrived at the right time for Castorama, because they announced, as they were probably saying yesterday, but for any of you who did not see us on here yesterday, they announced 2 days before the tour started that Castorama were no longer sponsoring the team next year. So the fact that the Castorama team have so many riders in the top 10 places at this moment, they have the yellow jersey, they have a great chance of holding the jersey now for at least 3 to 4 days until the team time trial. They are a very good team themselves in a team time trial, so they could even hold it for a few days after that, right to the mountains, maybe right to Liège, and that would be fantastic for this team, because Castorama, with Cyril Guimard being at the head of it, has always been a team and a force to be reckoned with. So it's very unfortunate now that France, being one of the strongest cycling nations, only having one guaranteed cycling professional team next year, which is GAN. So it'd be nice now if Cyril Guimard could come across a sponsor and to bring it through for next year.
Well, there we are. They're going through Paimpol now, 159 kilometres covered. Paimpol, a beautiful little harbour. You can see there the boats out. What a great shame that the sun hasn't come out. We'd have had a lot more spectators along the route. They're probably tucked up at home watching it on television. And a very scenic route indeed, and some beautiful part of the countryside here. And I'm not quite sure yet whether we should actually go past it, but I was driving along the course and I found a public house called Mr. Pickwick. And as the ex-president of the Pickwick Bicycle Club, the oldest cycling club in the world, I had to stop the Rover car and have my picture taken outside the public house. And I've even brought my straw hat. All members of the Pickwick Bicycle Club have pseudonyms, and they have the straw hat with the black and yellow stripes around it. So I wore my black and yellow straw, and in there also, Stephen, I popped in, and they were selling Kilkenny beer of all things, and Guinness. Now Kilkenny, the colours are black and yellow, the Kilkenny Cats. I remember that from the Tour of Ireland. So that made my day in these dismal conditions. But to see an actual Mr. Pickwick along here, it links. We've got so many links in this part of the world with the with both Ireland and with Wales, and of course Cornish people as well. There's Great similarity in the names that we go through here. You'll see that those people who know their holidays down in Cornwall, if you see some of the names coming up, this part of the world was populated by some of the Cornish people many years ago, and so you can see also the scenery is very similar to that as well. Nobel on the attack at the moment. Well, it's a bit strange to put out a tester like that. I thought they'd probably try to keep it together for Abdul Jabros for this long uphill sprint we've got.
Well, they're trying to keep the race lined out, because it's important that everyone is, if they let the pressure off a little bit, people will start attacking, and then no one knows who's going to get away. So if a team can have a rider in the front, it makes the Castlemaine riders ride behind, keeps everybody in line, it stops people from attacking, and could bring down the group in for a sprint. But it also means that while he's in the front, it means that his team is not riding behind.
And this is a look back at the attack by Eric Decker to get away from the control of the Castorama. They can't stop everything going away, and on this occasion this man slipped off the front now as we just come out of Pampol after we covered about 160 kilometres of racing, and it's only just over 72 kilometres left to go. Still looks quite comfortable on the front, riding away here, but the Castorama have got him in their sights. Just while we're watching this ride in action, let me take you through the sprints we've had so far. I gave you the climbs, the 3 climbs. We've had a sprint when Sverada was the first man across the line ahead of Abdul Jafarov and Baldata. That's the first sprint of the day after some 56 kilometres had been covered. And then we had another sprint yet to come. 2 more sprints yet to come. And with both of these, by the way, that we're going to see, one is at Trestle, the other one is Radom de Plymouth Bodou. They're both uphill. In fact, if you come to the first one at Trestle, it's like a big dipper at Blackpool. It goes up and down, then finally goes up, and it's a lovely long view back down there. So we should get a pretty good picture of that sprint, which is with 45 kilometres to go, and the final sprint is 14.5 kilometres to go before this long uphill drag to the finish in Lannion, where I think if Skibby's still in there, he'll have memories of his stage victory at Evro a couple of years ago. It's his sort of climb, it's an Ekimov type of climb, so it'll be quite interesting if this bunch is still together.
As you can see behind, the bunch is fairly regrouped behind, so the pressure is not really on, even though Decker is off the front slightly for about 100 yards or so. The group behind is not riding so hard, because if they're riding very hard, you'd see them all on one line behind. So you can see that they're not just trying to catch him straight away, they're just letting him go, letting him hang there, and just waiting until he dies himself.
There are, he's 82nd at 44 seconds. On the general classification, with the 188 riders left in the race, 2 minutes and 24 seconds, the last man on the line on the road at the moment. Sergio Barbero, Alonso 157 down. The one or two of them are well outside the 1 minute gap, but the majority of riders, there are 162 of them. In fact, no, so it's 139 of them are inside 1 minute of the leader. The 139th rider is Van Zella. As we look at these riders stringing along here now at the moment, the other British placings, by the way, or there are British here, there are 2 of them left, by the way. Sean Yates, one of them, he finished 103rd spot yesterday. He's 49 seconds down, and 113th yesterday, Maximilian Chianri, final British name that, he's 52 seconds down, 113th. Disappointing ride by Gianni Bugno. We watched him on the telly go around. He splashed round, he's lying 136 now, 59 seconds down, but I think better be safe than sorry. And Berzin, we haven't been able to find out, might have had some trouble. He came in 157th, 1 minute and 7 seconds down, which means he's something like about 30 odd seconds behind Indurain. Indurain's time yesterday, he was 31 seconds slower than Jackie Durand, and Ekimov was 32 seconds slower, and these riders, 35th and 38th. A lot of the top men who got caught in that rainstorm lost at least a good half minute. Well, I think Steve, you ranked it worth 40 seconds. So we see Romigo finishing 30th spot, 26 seconds down. Indurain 35th spot, 31 seconds down. And Zulla 23 seconds, including a crash. So those could well have been featuring in the finish if they hadn't had the problems with the rain. Apart from it sort of taking Gorman out, that's the race within a race, isn't it?
It is. Yesterday, if it had been a dry weather, yesterday the race in the race, Jackie Durand would have won the first race, and Alex Zule would have won the second race from Chirimari. So, or Chirimari would have won from, I think Chirimari was ahead of,
yes, he did a great ride.
Yeah, Chirimari had a great ride yesterday. He would have, he was 19, yeah, he would have taken over the second race. But at the same time, Chris Borden was not the only one to have fallen yesterday. There was a lot of guys actually fell down yesterday, and Wilfred Nielsen actually fell off in the dry, would you believe, going down to the descent. His front wheels went from under him, and then he came. Then the rider that we have here, so second last on GC today was Sergio Barbero. from the Carrera team, he was actually going down the road as happy as Larry, trying to get a good time in. The barriers jumped out in front of him.
No.
The wind just blew the barriers over. He was riding along, and 1 minute he found a barrier hitting him on the shoulder and throwing him onto the floor, onto the ground. So he had a busted up elbow and a hip. He still finished okay, but he was fairly painful last night, and this morning I met him at the start as well.
Well, there was some discussion actually. One thing I did do yesterday was 10 o'clock when we finished, that's Central European time. I didn't deliberately go and try and sort out Bournemouth and go back to his hotel and wait for him, because one thing I think he wanted then was to be on his own after
Everybody else was there, Dave.
I know, but even so, I thought, one more voice, but it would just be too much. So I went away, and actually I'm driving this nice little robot. I'm playing jazz all the time. I've got my jazz tapes with me, and I just didn't feel like playing jazz. I got out with classical music. I played some somber classical music. I drove back to the hotel last night. I felt for Chris and for his wife and his family and everything else, and I mean, that's the second thing that's happened to him. The day before the race started, he had his car broken into at home and his credit card stolen. Then he goes and falls off his bike. Let's hope there's not a third one, or perhaps he can find one a bit back to make the third. But nevertheless, certainly the wind was very strong, and one of my colleagues was saying that in fact that probably the wind caught his disc wheel at the back, because the Festina team, in fact Brian Montgomery told me, the Festina manager made them all take the disc wheels off and put wire wheels in. He said the crosswinds were gusting so much on the wet conditions, he felt it might blow them out, even on the back wheel. And the way that Chris went, he's going down this hill, I think it was some diesel or something that he came off on, but nevertheless you could imagine those gusts, as you say, the barrier came down, Stephen. It was very strong, and the disc wheels, even at the back, still catch it, don't they?
They do, they still catch it, but I think the place where Chris actually came off was a little bit sheltered. If it had been an open area, you could say it might have affected him a little bit, but I don't feel myself that the wind, because you must remember all Chris's weight is all on the saddle, which is going down through the back wheel, so the weight is actually on the back wheel, so it's not as if the wheel is hanging there. So I wouldn't say that was the cause of the accident yesterday. Just plainly Chris was going for seconds, hundreds of seconds, and he was giving it everything, giving a good gallop, and going down the corners, and unfortunate to hit a bit of slippy roads, and that was it, down he came. So very, very unfortunate, because on that corner, it wasn't even the most dangerous corner of the race. It was a corner where you'd go through and kind of wait to go to the next dangerous corner, but unfortunately we don't know why these things happen, but they happen.
And it was so slippy too. The car also skidded off the road, nearly running into Chris Bournemouth as he hit the barrier. That was the most spectacular sight, but what a great disappointment. There's one rider still out on his own. Decker being sent off by the Novell team to try and, I think, make the Castramas chase him down, and leaving Abu Japrov comfortably in the slipstream at the moment. Talk about the disc wheels a bit back and the problems of riding wire wheels better than that in the crosswinds. The commissaires have announced, by the way, that they're not allowed to use the special wheel, the Synergy American wheel. It's a 4-spoke when you look at it. In fact, there are 8 spokes, the 2 on either side of the central spoke, and they're very, very slim indeed. They're about no more than an inch, or maybe 2 centimetres, I suppose, the actual strut of the spoke. If you look at it sideways on, it's about an 1/8 of an inch. Very, very narrow indeed. They're good for cutting through the air, but that type of spoke, there's another one in the race as well. The commissaires have published it today. They ban the use in the road here in the bunches. They say you can use them in time trial. I think they're afraid if you fall off and put your hand in it, it'll slice your hands off.
I'm totally in agreement with them. I've been saying this for the last few years, since a lot of the Dutch riders often rode those wheels in the classics and that, and I always found it genuine. You can imagine you see a big pile up, and your hand, your leg, anything could go in there. Like, those wheels just don't stop when the bike hits the ground. They keep going around and around, and we come off it doing 45, 50 kilometers an hour, or 60 kilometers an hour, as it might happen in a sprint maybe. Like, you don't know what's going to be left of you. They're like razor edges, not so much like a razor, but they would be going at 65 kilometers an hour to at least break your arm. He didn't take it off, but I was always against them, and I was very happy to actually read this new law now has been brought out by the commissaires, because I feel that it's they're trying to put helmets on, trying to for the safety of the riders, then letting the riders use these wheels with razors for spokes. So I think it's quite normal that they've been banned.
Well, I certainly think that even some of these spokes now, they're riding with 16 spokes, the very flat ones with the Shimano type rims on them. You've got to, if you put down in that, at least you might only slice your fingers off. So with those other big ones, there are some tri-spokes and quarter spokes that have got very thick spokes, so I suppose they're not worried about those. The ones that are so thin when they go through the air in a forward direction. And anyway, that's a bit of information that commissaires have taken that decision in this. They also banned, by the way, an O-rise chainring that Castorama, this before even the race started, the UCI said that one could be used either. Meant the old Biopace that Shimano turned out was used quite a bit, but some of this new one that Castorama have got, they felt there was some illegal advantage in it, so that one's been banned.
Well, sometimes you have some strange things happening in cycling, the same with
Mr.
every
Obrey would
sport.
agree with that.
Yes, I'm sure. But sometimes you get some strange things getting past, and nobody even batting an eyelid about them. Then you get some other things that are on the road which are possibly less dangerous and less beneficial to the riders, and still don't take away from the actual image of a bike, and they just don't get through the jury.
Well, looking back here at the main bunch, our camera had picked up fleeting lead, not only the lead rider as well, but Jean-Marie Leblanc, one of the directors of the race, keeping an eye on things going along here. They're letting Eric Decker out there to fry at the moment. He just joined us here on Eurosport, watching the Tour de France Stage 1, coming 233 kilometres from Dinan to Lannion, and we're getting towards the back end of the race now, and this long, big arrowhead of riders. Nothing serious. In fact, there is, well, I say nothing serious. There's a long drag up after they come through Peros Gurek. There's a long drag up along the coast before they turn back in towards Lannion, and that I thought was worthy of at least a fourth category climb. So it's not all that easy run into the finish, apart from the uphill finish too. So young Decker has really thrown down the gauntlet to ride away like this, and when you're left out there, there's nothing you can do, I suppose, but keep on riding.
Well, that's it, like, and it's very, very exposed countryside, and later on when he gets out around the coast, it's going to be even more difficult, because the rain now is blowing over a little bit, but the wind is blowing it over, so there's a certain amount of wind coming off the sea. So even though the weather could be a little better up there around the coast, it's going to be a little more difficult for himself.
Well, those who know it, it's very much a pink granite coastline here, with lots of lovely islands. In fact, one of them, not far to the right of where we are now, Il Milo, was inhabited as far back as 5,000 years before Christ. And if you can go out there, you can see all the geology and flora, and have a look at it, because it's a lovely little island. It'll be out the right-hand side before he turns back in towards Lannion. And also know here that the Radome to Plumabodou, that's one of the places where they've got the telecommunications spots. And of course, it was here in 1972, just near Lannion, but the first satellite pictures were beamed from America up into the sky, bounced down and collected here in this part of France. That was history in the making, and you at home watching our coverage here are getting the benefit of satellite television, bringing you live action from Brittany. Helicopters in the sky, bouncing the pictures to the big trucks parked at the finish, and then they bounce it up in the sky on their great big satellite dishes as well. So it's flying all over the place at the moment, and it's bringing you bicycling at its best. As I said, in 1972, it was the first place just near here that received satellite pictures from America.
The French television had just actually interviewed Jan Ras, who is the director sportif of Eric Decker, and he was saying was it a pre-planned attack that he goes out the front so early, and Jan Ras replied that no, it's just we're trying to get publicity here, he says, because we haven't had a great year, and as the Tour de France has been shot over 60 countries throughout the world, and our company is a multinational company, it's important that we get some kind of publicity. So it's we cannot depend on Abdul-Jabbarov in the finish. So at least by having somebody up the road now, we're getting publicity, and it's only helping the chances of Abdul-Jabbarov to win the sprint and the finish also.
So that's young Eric Decker being sent out by a very experienced team manager, Jan Ras, who also is going to lose his sponsor, because Nobel are a computer company. They have taken over the team that used to be the Word Perfect team that ran for a couple of years under the wing of Jan Ras, himself was a great racing cyclist for the TI Rally team, world champion and winner of stage victories in the Tour de France itself. So the Nobel team, they've done what they set out to do, the Word Perfect, and then Nobel have bought out Word Perfect, getting the name known across Europe and across the world. And what Jan Ras is hoping to do, of course, is to find a sponsor to pick up this team at the end of the season. So those unusual colours, the first time we've seen him in the race. Here, Nobel, Decker on the attack. Getting up towards the top of the headline, there'll be long sweeping drop down towards the coast. The coast is lying over on the right-hand side at the moment, and he's sitting well over towards the side, trying to keep out of the wind as much as he can do.
Well, he is riding fairly well. He's already got a gap of 53 seconds at the moment, so he's but you see the bunch here behind. They're not actually riding very, very hard after him. They're leaving him there for the moment.
And there they are, this big bunch of cyclists, and young Decker drifting away off the front. He's lying at the moment 86 overall, 44 seconds down general class, so technically he's got the yellow jerseys racing on the road, but I think other riders in that big pack will have other ideas and will do all they can to pull him back before very long. So there's Castrol on the front, and Decker's in the lead. Lannion on the front of this little group of Castorama, still holding the pack together, and this man out in front as the assistant director sportive has come through. So Jan Ross, he's taking a bit more back seat, but it seemed driving one of the Vale team cars this morning, so it looks like they must have sent the number 2 car to look after him.
Well, normally that's what they would do. Normally, as he arrived now at 42 kilometres to the finish, normally the second car would always look after the brakes, and the main, unless of course if it was the leader of the team was in the front, then Jan Ross might go ahead and talk to his leader. But normal circumstances, Jan Ross, or the first director, would stay behind the peloton.
I don't even get a fair trial.
Bottle of sugar, like they call it champ, or every different team has different things, but it's more of a sugar drink. It's as most people who do a bit of cycling at this moment would know, but for those of you that don't know, the solid foods like the cakes and the bread rolls and all that kind of stuff is there's an awful lot of these new energetic foods now to replace them, and this is one of them. It means you can have the liquid food. It takes a lot less time to react, and it can help you last longer. It means you have got to have your pockets weighed down with all kinds of food. Take 1 or 2 of these bottles every 25-30 kilometers, and it helps get through a stage.
And Castorama on the front here, and just behind the colours of Telecom, who are a mixed team by the way this year. They've got some of the ZG riders as well, because Telecom deemed not to be strong enough originally to be selected in the Tour. They selected 15 teams, excluding Telecom, who are in 9th spot overall in the team overall classification on the UCI points ranking. They exclude them, but they put them back in again now with the ZG team. So they've got a nice mixture, and it's nice to feel like Stefano Calagia coming in to ride in the ZG Celitalia part of this Telecom group, and also Nelson Rodriguez, who won a stage last year in the Tour, nearly came close to winning a stage in the Giro d'Italia this year. So some of those men from the ZG team, we more like to see them in the mountains, whereas the ones in pink and white here, we'd like to see some of the sprinters. Olaf Ludwig is in there, wears number 204. I'm looking down to see if we can spot his number, and off the moment, previous wear of the green jersey in the Tour de France, and he will be in there looking after Eric Zabel, who was 2 or 3 stages he won in the Tour of Switzerland just a few weeks ago. So that they'll also be in with a shout, I think, if we get down to a sprint finish at the end. If that's the Telecom ZG mixed team, and just one of their riders begin to show a bit on the left-hand side. Pink jerseys of Once begin to show as well, and we should see some bluish jerseys with yellow spots come through, or yellow patches. Those of the Mercaton Uno team for the benefit of Mr. Cipollini. I'm looking down there to see Motorola haven't done much at the moment to stand anybody up by. 1:29, he's drifting away all the time, about 25 miles to go. Well, keep your fingers crossed for him. Here he is, still trying very hard to stay away. He's had that encouragement from his team manager, Hilo van der Schuren, who's made no secret of the fact he likes to bring on young riders, always looking for young talents, and he's a man who's been involved, the deputy team manager, in cycles now for many, many years. Something like about 30 years he's been involved in cycle racing, and he's certainly now, I think, being rather pleased this young rider is out in the front. 24 years of age, be 25 in August, so he's one of the young riders classification overall, and the man that's leading that one, he's flicking through his notes at the moment. I'll come back to you when I can get this paper clip out of the way. And on the young rider classification, there's he, turning back to yet another one, and it's Gabriel Colombo who's leading on the young rider classification at the moment, just ahead of Rogas and Bascati and Malaysia. And looking down here, Armstrong is lying 7th on the young rider classification. We've got 34 riders here in the young riders. They'd be under 25 on the 1st of January this year. So we've got 34, I suppose you wouldn't call 25 years of age being young, but they do for the Tour de France, because this is a race that brings a great demands on riders, and the older you get, the more you seem to have the skill and experience to last the course. How old were you, Steve, when you won your Tour de France?
Tour de France 27. They say that the age of maturity for a cyclist is around the 27 years of age. That from 27 to 32, you're really at your best, and I think it's shown for a lot of riders. Even Sean Kelly, even though he won stages in Tour de France before his 27th birthday, he really hit it really hard, really big time around the 25, 26 years of age.
Well, Eddie Merckx was the unique one, wasn't he? He was at 22, and then also Argentine were winning earlier on, weren't they? But they were exceptions, weren't they?
Well, those guys they've been referenced in every history book all over involved in cycling at the moment. So they're good guys, and they're good guys.
And the long string of riders here, still no Fisher's action. We did split the field on the climb we had, the third climb of the day. It split a little bit, but once they got themselves over the top, they decided to get themselves back together again and hope that the sprinters teams will do what they can to keep this little lot nice and compact. Still nobody else jumping around. The Castrol was looking over the shoulders. At this sort of speed too, it's a bit safer for the riders. Keep out of touching wheels and crashing and coming off. Just a nice little gentle pace, averaging a bit less, about 23 miles an hour I think the stage time will be today.
The stage has not been very, very fast, but at the same time, it's yesterday was a prologue. It finished very, very late. Jackie Duron, after his stage last night, went back to his hotel. He was lying on his massage table when he realised that, well, he has to get dressed again and go back to the finish to accept the leader's yellow jersey. He was only back at his hotel then at 11:15. So, like, it's not getting to bed late last night, getting up early this morning for 228 kilometres, first stage of Tour de France, is by no means looking forward to having a fast day, because the weather hasn't been great either. If it was warm weather, it would have been different because the riders would be a little bit more into going fast. But when the weather's a little miserable, like it has been today, and after the time trial last night, nobody's in the humour of really getting it hard. And everyone knows the first day of the Tour de France, so it's very dangerous because of all these small roads, and everyone's just very, very, very nervous, very anxious getting to the finish, and also everyone's afraid of coming down. So it's not every day of the year or every race that riders ride. There's a field of over 200 riders, so everybody always takes the first day to get used to this thing again. So today has not been a great stage really, but still it's the long stage.
And not only that, of course, when most of them were around Saint-Brieuc, where we were yesterday, and they had to then travel to Dinan to start this morning, which is around about 60 kilometres or more of driving for them, first thing this morning, wasn't it?
It is, like all these things all add up, so especially with the weather, like if we get a good warm bit more, I'm sure it'll change things, but everyone's a little bit under the weather, to put it that way, David.
And Jackie Duron, well, he was most surprised to get that jersey yesterday, but certainly the smile on his face, I think, would be there when he realised he'd earned himself 25,000 French francs. So the board going up to show 1 minute and 30 seconds. This breaker and the rider in the lead, Eric Decker, is now inside the final 40 kilometres, less than 25 miles to go to the finish. Still within catchable distance, but we've seen this happen before, that sometimes they relaxed and jumped around too late, and one man's managed to stay on and time trial in. And he is a very good time trialist indeed. I say in the Tour of Sweden, he won the time trial thing there, he won the prologue as well, he won the Tour of Sweden overall last year, and he's throwing away his food now. He really is bucking down to this one, and he's showing every intention of staying out there. He's looking good, looking comfortable, and the main field have let him out there. He just took off way down the road, something like about 30 kilometres ago. It's been a long lone break as far as he's concerned, but still Decker is a man who's got his eyes fixed on the finish. It'll be at Lannion in about another 24 miles of racing or so. His lead is now 1 minute and 37 seconds. This long lone attack of Eric Decker looks at the moment to be not exactly comfortable, but he's making good progress here, getting towards 1.5 minutes ahead of this main group. You can see with the yellow jersey of Jackie Duron on the left-hand side of your picture, and the Benestos are beginning to move forward to the front now. There's interesting move that they should be going up there, because they don't normally look for a sprint finish to improve things. I think they want to get that man back, and they're going to probably help now the Castro team, because technically with Miguel Indurain, last year's victor, looking for his 5th successive championship, I suppose he must be also to Indurain to try and pull that thing back, because this young lad, if he managed to stay away like that, Indurain might be quite capable in the 1 minute back later on, but nevertheless, as Indurain was 31 seconds down this morning, Decker 44, there's only about 12-13 seconds between Indurain and Decker, so is there some reason to say, look, I must now aid this little chase?
Well, I wouldn't think that Indurain has anything at all in his mind other than staying upright, and as we have been saying since we started the programme an hour ago, the last final 30 kilometres is very, very up and down and very tight, but not tight, but a little bit dangerous. So Indurain's teammates now will have had orders now to keep Miguel up in the front for the final 30 kilometres, as he always does. It's a habit of doing, whether they come into any danger spot or coming to any finish. His teammates always bring him to the front. It's not to chase down this guy, because this guy here has no danger whatsoever to Indurain. but at the same time, it's to keep Miguel up in the front, because shortly we will see some of the sprinters teams coming to the front and riding in the front, and once the speed goes up, then if Dinan is behind, it makes him time very, very difficult for him and them to get to the front. So he prefers coming to the front before the actual heat comes on and before the sprinters teams get to the front. So I'd say now shortly we're going to have to see one of the sprinters teams coming to the front, but they're all calculating this time as well. They're saying, well, we're not riding too fast at the moment, and we're still keeping Decker in the front at a reasonable 1 minute 30 seconds, 1 minute 35 seconds. So they reckon, well, if we increase it, we ride in the front with 5 or 6 of our team, we'll get them back very quickly. So nobody's really worried about Decker now for the moment. So, but I'd say it'll be very shortly now. I'd say we'll see either some attacks coming from some of the other teams, or we'll just see a sprinters team coming to the front and chasing down Decker, getting him back and preparing the terrain then for their leader, for the sprinter.
And the riders then in this nice little cove heading up right round the coast. We've gone right the way along the edge of the coast from Sombrio this morning, heading after the start at Dinan, right hugging the coast all the way through. We've now seen these beautiful fishing villages, and Pelos Segurek is where they're going to turn sort of leftish and head back down in towards Lannion, heading in a sort of southerly direction after circuiting round.